Hey everybody, before I get started, I just want to mention a couple of ways that you can engage with me on a more personal level. I have a few avenues set up and I keep focusing on one, and I figured, why don't I make a short little video talking about all of them real quick before we get into these episodes. So first thing, Patreon. There's a link in the episode description and every episode description to the Patreon, as well as a video on the feed called Major Announcement that has all the details of what each tier offers and how much they cost. I implore you to check that out. I offer a lot of cool shit for my patrons. Second thing, the Discord channel. There's also a Discord link in the episode description and in every episode description. I have multiple channels set up there for each show that I'm covering, and it's a great way to just engage with me. I have a channel set up for MMA talk as well. I'm a big MMA fan, so if you're an MMA fan, you can check that out as well. There's a link to the Discord in the episode description. And then lastly, the Facebook and Twitter. Social media. Follow me on there. I post news on there. When I say news, I mean like, hey, I'm stopping covering this show. Hey, I'm starting covering this show. Let me know what you think about this. I do live watches of things on Facebook where like I'll check in and say, I'm watching so-and-so show. And then I'll like live comment while I'm watching it. And that'll be cool if maybe you watch that show too and you want to watch along with me, or you're watching it later and you will see my thoughts, which are usually pretty entertaining because I'm usually pretty high when I'm writing them. So check out all those links in each episode description, and let's talk about this episode. Peace.
One mic, one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. One mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, and today I'm here to talk about Season 2, Episode 4 of HBO's Perry Mason, titled Chapter 12. So, before I get started, I of course want to start by apologizing for how late I'm getting this video out. Obviously, it's super fucking late because the new episode, Episode 5, is already aired. I haven't watched it yet. I am literally going to watch it the moment I hit stop on this video, recording it. I'm going to set it up to start editing, and I'm going to start watching the new episode. Then I'm going to record that video too. So whenever this video drops, look for the episode 5 video, maybe like, I don't know, two to 3 hours later, something like that. I need time to watch it, prep my notes, record it. Yeah, probably closer to the 3 hour range. Look for it maybe like 3 hours later. But as far as the delay on getting this one out, if you are not on the Facebook page, I implore you to do so. I'm always on there, active, leaving messages, all kinds of stuff. I do my live watches on there. And I've been keeping the Facebook people up to date on what's been going on with me. I made a post on YouTube, just a regular, like a written post that you type out. I don't know how you find it, but it's there. And it gives a link to the Facebook page, which is, it's public, so you don't even have to have Facebook to read it. It gives a link to the Facebook page that kind of lays out what I was dealing with. In short, I was sick all last week, and the plan for this upcoming week. So that's really all there is there. Again, I don't plan on getting that sick like ever again. So hopefully there won't be any more delays like that. But let's get on to talking about this episode, because after getting my notes together and reminding myself how much I enjoyed this episode, I'm ready to record this video and watch the new one. So especially because I'm going to lay out some theories in this one. So I want to start by talking about Teddy's horny ass teacher. Like, yes, that's how we're going to start the video. Teddy's horny ass teacher. She's so aggressive with Perry that I'm starting to wonder if maybe she's working for somebody, and that person was like, yo, cozy up to him, try to get close to him. Like, I think they kind of know, like, have sex with the guy, see what kind of information you get. I feel like she's a setup now, because she does so much in this episode. She's teaching, so Perry's teaching Teddy how to ride a horse, right? And she rolls up, and already I'm like, yo, what the fuck is she doing here? Like, how convenient that this horny ass teacher just so happens to be at the I don't know, the horse school. What do you call it? A stable? Oh, goodness. I gotta settle down. The horse stable where Perry and Teddy are at. And she gets there and she's willing to tell Perry instantly everything about her whole life. Like, I work here on weekends. Here's my real name. Here's my maiden name. Here's my address. Like, you can call me by whatever name you want to. Here's the liquor that gets me super loose. Like, she tells him everything. Then she shows up at his fucking house at the end of the episode like, yo, I know how things went wild at the school. I took care of all that, smoothed it all over, and I brought you a fucking sandwich. I'm like, yo, did she read the, like, how to suck up to men playbook? Like, there's no way. I'm like, this woman's too perfect. Perry don't even deserve her. Like, actually, I take that back. She's too perfect to the point where, like, I don't even want to call her perfect. Like, I'm suspicious at this point. Like, I don't know. Now I'm not in on the teacher. I'm like, I'm super suspicious of the teacher. I couldn't believe that she brought a fucking, and not just like, oh, here's a fucking turkey and cheese. It's a fucking French dip. Like, what the, in 1930? What did that cost? By like 1930 standards, like, what did that cost? Like, how is that comparable today? Like, that probably was comparable to like a fucking steakhouse dinner in 1930. Fucking French dip? Like, what the fuck? Anyway. Oh, let's get on talking about this episode, man. So, we'll talk about it more so. I want to start by talking about, let's see. Let's start by talking about, no, I feel like I want to end there because that's kind of where it wraps around at. Yeah, I think I'm going to end there. And I want to start by talking about Holcomb and this journey he goes on in this episode to kind of find out how Brooks was able to fund keeping produce and whatnot on the Morocco. And he's like, yo, Brooks can't afford, like, we ain't got no money. Brooks didn't even start paying us till recently. How did he afford all this shit, right? So he ends up at this place called Goldstein Produce. Yeah, Goldstein Produce. And he's like, yo, what kind of arrangement did you guys have with Brooks? He was like, my man at Goldstein Produce, like, who the fuck is Brooks? He didn't say that, but it was like, we don't have no business with the Morocco. I don't know what you're talking about. So the veggies, whatever, that are on the Morocco don't come from this produce place. What we end up finding out is that Brooks had them coming in on cargo ships, and he was using Goldstein Produce workers to take them via truck to the Morocco. And the produce worker that Holcomb ends up getting this information from in this episode is the same guy who went up to Lydell early in the season and was like, yo, your son owe me money. And he put his face up against the thing and his face is all fucked up. And he was like, forget you ever knew my son. So that's the guy, one of the guys, I'm assuming that he was the only guy that Brooks was utilizing, who is moving this produce from this cargo ship to the Morocco. Now, Burntface was probably none the wiser of what's probably really happening, which was there was other shit being brought in on these ships. And the produce is kind of probably just a cover. His dumb ass is probably running the produce back and forth, not even knowing about all the fucking, I don't know, cocaine or what, I don't know what else is going to be on there. But I think definitely there was something else. There's the main reason for the cargo ships is not the produce that ended up on the Morocco. My guess is it's probably something else. And the produce is a cover / convenient addition. Because how interesting is that? Like, oh, he was, what was he? He was illegally bringing cucumbers across the border? Like, who gives a fuck about that, right? There's got to be something more interesting than that. Also of note, the secretary that Della and Perry hired, well, just Della. The secretary that Della hired finally finds Nora's brother. So we got Nora Lawson / Taylor. We find out her brother is a guy named Vincent Taylor, the V, because we knew his name started with a V. He's a councilman in the same district that Brooks wanted to build his baseball stadium in. Now, we can do all kinds of theorizing. There's a lot of possibilities for what could have happened here, but I think it's pretty safe to say that we're going to find out something interesting, like why is his sister like an invalid in this place, and her brother just so happens to be the councilman for where Brooks wanted to build his stadium. Like, did she used to be okay, and now she's all fucked up? Because they said the Lawson family's been through a lot, so I'm guessing maybe something happened to her. Maybe Brooks facilitated whatever that was, or I don't know, maybe to help maybe push the brother Vincent into authorizing the stadium. Lots of interesting theories we can do here. Moving on to talking about Paul. Paul initially doesn't want to tell Perry what he discovered the week before about the boys and the gun and all that kind of shit, right? But he eventually does, and he lays it out very clearly that he believes the boys have done the crime. And that kind of felt lazy to me on Paul's part. Like, I don't think you even have to think that hard to come up with feasible alternative theories. But then they go and they're just like, so we have this, and the boys fucking confess to it. And here's the thing, they came in with not with like here's what happened. Can you explain this? Perry's coming with, you did it. Stop fucking lying to me. I don't need this shit. And so, of course, they're going to confess, right? But aside from the confession, I'm pretty sure I'm going to find the battle between Perry and Paul / Della in the next episode about representing them or not. I'm sure I'm going to find that pretty interesting. The idea of trying to free someone who you know committed a crime is already interesting to me in the first place. But Perry is a new lawyer who's still like, you know, bright-eyed, idealistic, big on justice. We've already talked about the phrase "the illusion of justice" in this show, this season. This is going to be a lot for him to take on. I'm going to be interested to see that conflict, particularly next week, because I feel like, well, I can't say no, particularly in the next 40 minutes or whenever I start the episode, because I feel like that's not something that's going to drag out, right? They're going to handle whether or not they're going to represent these boys in the next episode, and of course they are. So that's going to happen, but I'm curious to see like what that conversation is going to be like and what that's going to look like. I'm sure it's going to be pretty interesting. Fortunately, though, I don't believe the boys actually did it anyway. Or they did it, but they were like paid to. Like they did it under duress. Like if you kill this guy, we'll give you enough money for your family to be set for life. You know, the thing that I wanted to talk about earlier that I was trying to decide, like, I don't want to talk about that now. It was how we see Rafael Gallardo give drawings to Sophia, and she uses those drawings to like almost like a map, like to find this truck, and she finds a fuck ton of money. That looked like a lot of money by 2023 standards. That was a lot of money by 1930 standards. So yeah, it's kind of looking like maybe they either agreed to do the crime if their family was set up with enough money, which seems to have been what happened, or they agreed to take the fall for the crime and their family would be set up with enough money or whatever. So, and it's got to be tied to this whole thing with the Morocco and the cargo ships. Like maybe they saw, maybe not them, but maybe someone involved in this was about to blow it up, or Brooks. And they, whatever the case may be, they needed Brooks dead, and they were like, let's just hire some Mexicans to do it. No one's gonna look that deeply into it, and then you get fucking illusion of justice Perry over here. I don't even think he used that phrase. It was somebody else that used it. But like, you get somebody like an idealistic person with values and morals like Perry on the case, and now everything goes to shit because you're like, oh, we need some throwaway people to cop for this crime, and you find two Mexican boys who will willingly do it if it meant, you know, putting their family in a better position. Everything, everybody's kind of happy in this scenario, and then you get the fucking family that's like, hey, let's have Perry Mason on the case, and now Perry's gonna fuck it all up by freeing these guilty kids. But yeah, I don't know if they did it or not, but either way, like I said, they either did it and they were paid to do it so their family could be okay, or they were paid to take the fall for it. Let's see, moving on. Where are we? Oh yeah, Paul's wife is pressing him to look into it because he's like, yeah, this doesn't feel right. I don't know if I believe this. And she's like, well, you're a detective, right? You were paid to look into it. No, you're paid to investigate. Well, fucking investigate it. So I think that's gonna be good in the next episode too, seeing Paul kind of look into that, because like we're gonna see more detective work, like the fucking wet phone book idea with the guns that he had in the last episode. Sign me up for more of that. Like I like Paul's detective style. It's fun to watch. It's very kind of Breaking Bad, where it's like you're watching something happening, you know it's important, but you're not gonna understand its relevance till way later. That's what's happening here, and I kind of like it. I also like the dynamics at play here as well. You know, everybody wants to hang these boys, figuratively and literally, not because they committed the crime, but solely because they're brown. Like it's all racism. Like, oh, they're Mexicans, they must have done it. They don't know or care if the boys actually did it or not. But they did do it, which makes it funny. It's like, y'all are racist. I mean, you right, but you racist, but you right. And I don't know, I find that kind of like interesting / humorous. It's like the boys are guilty of the crime unbeknownst to everyone except Perry, but everyone's already judged them as guilty for the crime, not because they did it or because of any of the evidence, just because of what they look like. And I like how Perry went for that plea deal, like right after they confessed. And it's not like I thought the plea deal itself was a good strategy or anything. It was very much like, even the plea deal wasn't even that great. It was like, you know, we'll give them, you can still give them life, just not with death. Like give them possibility of parole. They're like, no, fuck that. But I liked how hard Perry went on the plea deal idea. I was like to the point where I was surprised that Berger and I can't remember the prosecutor's name. I can't remember the prosecutor's name, but Berger and the prosecutor. I was surprised they didn't agree to it because Perry made great points about like, do you want the shit Brooks, all the shit that Brooks has been into? Do you want that coming to light? He mentions Noreen without saying her name directly, like, oh, there's a I can't remember how he described her. Like, I don't know if he said invalid, but he said something like, there's a girl who can't move in a hospital or whatever that, I'm sure you don't want that to come out. He mentions, he's like, I only got to convince 12 jurors. I mean, you got to convince 12 jurors. I only got to convince one. But it's like they're so certain that the boys did it, and it makes me wonder if they're like in on the scheme. Like, again, let's say the scheme is someone kills Brooks. We have Mexicans take the fall for it. If the DA and the prosecutor are in on that scheme, they already know they've got a slam dunk case. So why would they back down from it and take the plea deal? But the only thing is like, well, they take the plea deal, they're still guilty. So it's like, it sounds like the end goal is killing them. And I feel like even that kind of feeds into the theory because they're liabilities now. Because like they're the only ones who know about this thing. Like, so if the deal is like, we'll pay you, let's say $1 million, right? Which, Jesus. But like, just to say a number, we'll pay you $1 million if you take the fall for killing this Brooks guy. Now they know about it. So maybe they tell him like, you take the fall for this, and they're thinking they're going to get life. But like, maybe it's like, okay, now you get death, and maybe they're not expecting to get death. But for the people behind the scheme, death is ideal because the only people who know that you came up with this scheme are the people you about to have killed. So, I mean, it kind of works. I don't know. One thing I found super interesting in this episode too was when Della went to go visit Camila Nygaard. She asked Camila how Brooks planned on financing the stadium. She's like, do you have other investors, stuff like that? And Camila immediately pivots to asking where Perry is, and then like as if like I can't discuss finance without a man around. And then the conversation steers entirely and stays entirely on how Perry as a man treats his female partner at work. And it becomes this whole thing about how men treat women and all this kind of shit. And the scene ends. And I'm like, Della never went like, yo, what about my question? Like, it just ended like that. And it made me wonder, like, is Camila trying to avoid that line of questioning? Who would have potentially been financing Brooks's baseball stadium that Camila would want to keep secret? And I just mentioned the fucking Jeez, I've already forgotten. What did I say? Who did I talk about? Oh, the fucking Noreen's brother and shit. Vincent Taylor, whatever his name. That guy. Is it Vincent or Victor? I've already forgotten. What's his name? Vincent. Yeah. So, maybe it was that guy. And she doesn't want to go, oh yeah, Vincent Taylor said he was going to help with it or whatever. And then now Della's in that direction and now everything's fucked. So, interesting. So, that's all I got for the main plot of that episode, but I do have kind of a few thoughts that I wanted to just get out there. For one, I'm still not interested in Della and Anita. I really don't see the appeal aside from Della's random nudity, which was surprisingly impressive. I don't understand the point of this plot line, especially because, like I said, they're pretending as if Hazel don't exist. And if we had that conflict, I'd be a little bit more interested. But then again, we are only halfway through the season. Well, we're not anymore, but you get the point. After episode 4, we're only halfway through the season. Maybe this could turn to something else. But as of right now, I'm still not interested. I really like the scene where Paul goes home and his brother-in-law is playing cards with friends and they start like shit-talking Paul. But the brother-in-law steps in as soon as the one friend calls Paul Uncle Tom. And I like that scene because the brother-in-law has been kind of shitty to Paul so far. And you can tell he's mad that Paul and his wife are staying there. But he draws the line at the friend calling Paul dirty. But he wouldn't have defended him if he had knew about Paul's involvement in the situation in the first place. I mean, in the Melvin Perkins situation. That was his name, right? Melvin Perkins? If he had known about his involvement in that situation, because the brother talked about how that's fucked up work for him now. So if he knew that, he wouldn't have defended him. Even though it's still true that Paul isn't dirty, he didn't know what he was doing. So it's kind of similar to the situation with the boys. It's like, you're being racist, but you're right. And it's like he would be mad at Paul, but he'd be wrong. Like, Paul's not being dirty, but it would look that way, and he'd be not justified in being mad, but it's like based on what he would know, he'd be kind of justified in being mad. So I think it's interesting that if he knew the whole thing, he wouldn't be as defensive of Paul or so willing to defend Paul. But I like that he is. What's up with Pete? He was really defensive when Perry asked him about, like, he was like, what do you think it would take for Burger to ease up a little bit? He got really defensive about that. Like, I'm not gonna sell out the guy who's putting food on my table or some shit like that. Then he kind of snapped at the racetrack after that went left when they were just kind of like having fun, it looked like. And I still feel like he might be involved in this. Like, I feel like Pete's role in the show is too minor so far. And I think there's a bigger part for him that's going to come to light. A bigger part isn't like a part in the story. Like, his involvement in this, I feel like it's going to come to light and it's going to be a little bit bigger than what it's looked like so far. I like what Camila Nygaard told Della, if it gets stuck in your teeth, it's good for you. Because bacon gets stuck in my teeth all the time, so... So I want to talk about this bullying situation that happens here. So Lydell is using his influence to have like the newspapers and the radio basically shit talk Perry as a guy who defends Mexicans, because who defends brown people in this day and age, right? In 1930. And they got all kinds of slanderous names for him and shit. Perry's kid is getting picked on at school over this. This is what Perry's kid tells him. And then all this media influence of the community is of course going to have resonance in the community shit talking Perry as well. I didn't like how when that one parent at Teddy's school started talking shit about Perry and how he defends Mexicans and Perry hit him, that everybody at the school acted like Perry shot him in the face. Like, they're all like, oh. And then like Teddy's like, I don't want to go home with him. And then like the horny teacher is like, come on, let's go. And I'm like, he deserved that. But then you got to remember too, it's 1930. And hitting someone for being racist is probably akin to like hitting somebody for cutting in front of you in line in 2023. It's like, yeah, that was an overreaction. It was just a little bit of casual, little sprinkled on racism. You got to be hitting people for that. In 1930, so yeah, I overreacted in the moment. I'm like, come on, man. Like, that's not a reason to react like that. He hit a motherfucker who deserved it. But they're probably looking at it as if, like, it's probably no more than, like, again, like, if I bump into somebody and I'm just like, instead of saying, excuse me, and then that guy walks off and just slugs me in the face, like, why did you hit that guy? Yeah, that's probably what happened. And then I want to close with a very important and pertinent question about this episode that I desperately need an answer to. What was the point of the scene where that woman offered to suck Perry's dick in the movie theater? He's like, I paid to get the fuck out of here. And then I'm like, man, here's the thing, too. I thought he was in like a porno movie theater or something, and no one else was gonna be there. There's a lot of people in that theater. For her to come up and just be like, "Yo, you want some head?" He's like, "Eh." There's a guy sitting right behind me. I don't know what the point of that scene was. But I also don't think this show is the type of show to put a scene in there and have it not mean anything. I wonder if that woman has some sort of, like, we're gonna see her again and she's gonna be important. Like, I'm wondering if she's somebody or not. Like, maybe it's another woman, like just like the teacher. Like I said, hypothesized the teacher's essentially being sent after Perry to get information or whatever. Like, she's been hired by someone to get close to him. Maybe that's what that prostitute was doing. Who knows? But that's all I got. I will see you guys in a couple of hours after I watch episode 5. So until then, peace.